Alright, let's jump straight into this. As you can see, this part has a little bit more stuff on it. We have a lot of holes, and you can see that some of them are different sizes. We also have these larger holes, which are also known as pockets. So we're going to get into this. The first thing you notice, that you should notice, is that this part isn't even with this plane. So we're going to fix that. And we're going to start off fixing that by coming over here to bodies, right-clicking on body 1, and clicking move copy. I'm going to slide it on up so that way it's even with this green line you see. And you want to try to get it close. It doesn't have to be perfect necessarily, but it's got to be pretty dang close. Otherwise, it could be confusing for your router. So let's just try to get, there we go, perfect. So now, as I'm sure you noticed, our pivot point was on the bottom left. So to make sure that we don't ruin the progress we made, we're going to rotate to this side. And we're just going to rotate it 90 degrees. Oh, that's not 90. There we go. And as you can see, it's now flat. I don't know why I did that. Why is it? Okay, anyways, you can see that's now flat with the plane. And that's exactly what we wanted. Okay, it's being dumb. But okay, so now our next step is we're going to go into manufacture. We're going to make sure your units are in inches, and you're going to make a setup. Now, once again, you can see that it's trying to cut a little extra out. We don't want that. We're going to do stock, no additional stock. We're going to come back into setup. Now, as you can see, this part's kind of weird. It's got a bunch of angles and stuff on it. So how we're going to take care of that is we're going to go to orientation. Like always, we are going to use a Z-Y axis actually. Actually, no, let's use the ZX. And the reason why we're going to use the ZX is because we're going to select our Z on this face. Right, so you can see that I have a face selected. And then the X is going to be on this side. So now our Y is going to be going this way. That's exactly what we want. And the reason we want that is because, if it'll let me, there we go. The reason we want this is because you can see that's a little bit longer this way than it is wide. Now, I may just be delusional, but that's what I see. And then we're going to take our box point and put it bottom left. And you can see all the arrows are already facing the right way, so we ain't got to do nothing else. And click OK. Wait for load because it's dumb. Alright, next we're going to do our bores. Now I'm kind of speedrunning through this because I already did all this stuff in the last video. So select same diameter. Select. Where's my tool? Here it is. There we go. So you can see it automatically generates the path. We're just going to leave it because honestly, if you're sitting in that room, you're not going to have time to really mess with the order that you want it in. It says down here, technically says optimize order. Clearly, this order doesn't look very optimized though. As you can see, it's like jumping around. It's not just going from spot to spot. It doesn't really make any sense. So we're going to do, once again, we're going to do negative 20 thousandths. And then also be sure that your preset is set to bore. We don't need to do any of this because it's a bore and we don't have to mess with any of this. So we're going to click OK and move on to the next step. Alright, now we're going to do these guys right here, these circles. These open areas right here. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use an adaptive clearing. Now the reason we're going to use an adaptive clearing is because it's adaptive. I don't actually know the reason. I'm making stuff up. If you want to know the actual reason, talk to Emerson. He explained it to me once. I just don't entirely remember. We're going to select all these bottoms, just like that. And notice how I selected the bottom of the hole and not the top. If you select the top of the hole, it'll think that that's the bottom of the stock, and that's where it needs to get to. But in reality, we want it to get to the bottom, obviously, because otherwise we won't have a hole. All right, so heights, negative 20,000. Nope, that's wrong, sorry. 20,000. Make sure you have your tool selected. Typically, it'll automatically select. If you selected it for your bore, it'll be automatic for this one. Now we want feed up, smoothing. You're going to turn off stock to leave. We don't want stock to leave on. And we're going to turn on multiple depths. And something that I didn't mention in the last video is if you actually click on it, so that way it shows up like this, down here in the bottom right, it'll show you how long this will take to cut. Now, this number isn't completely accurate because it only involves cutting time. It doesn't actually involve the time moving between the different holes. So, now that we have our adaptive clearing done, the next thing we want to do is we want to try to get these holes as close to where they need to be as possible. And how we're going to do that is by using a contour. Now, essentially what the contour does is it's just going to take a little bit off around the side, and it's just going to be done. And by doing that, it fixes the problem of having flex in the bit. Now, flex is exactly what it sounds like. While you're cutting, the bit flexes a little bit away from the metal, and that causes it to not get to the full size. So I'm going to select the bottom of each hole. Make sure I got them all. Yep. Again, we're still going to use the negative 20 thou. And then on this one, you will use the same setting that you would use for the outside, because we don't have a different setting set for that. We've never made one. So we're going to do feed up and smoothing just because it makes it a little bit better. You do not need multiple depths for this because there's not really any point. So you can see, this time it did actually do a pretty good path, but it doesn't really matter all that much. We're not trying to optimize this. We're just here to teach you how to do this. So the next thing is we need to cut out the shape. So once again, we're going to use a contour. We're going to select the bottom. Make sure that you have this set to contour because it'll be slow enough to work. Negative 20 thou. Feed up, smoothing, and we're going to do multiple depths because it just takes a little bit of load off. So when doing multiple depths, if you zoom in, you should, I don't know why we can't see it here. It must not have worked. Oh, that's too many. I can't, let's see here. Let's see if we can remember this number. Oh wait, was it supposed to be 70? I'm trying to remember the number. Oh, let's do too many. Alright, well, but I can't seem to figure it out, so whatever it is, you notice that you should be able to see two lines, and that's all you really want. You don't want to do a ton of passes because otherwise you're just wasting time. Okay, I have no clue what's going on. I think I just have the number too high. Yeah, okay. I have no clue what's going on, but since it's not going to do multiple depths, we're just going to turn it off just to make sure I don't break anything. Okay. So now you can see. So, okay, one more thing. Since we're not doing the multiple depths, you're going to want to actually do the cutting feed rate a little bit slower. You're not going to mess with it here. You can mess with that on Mach 3. But that's just a little word to the wise, because running it slower will also reduce load on the bit and will increase your bit life. So, as you can see, we have way more operations here than we did last time. So, we always put the bore by itself under one condition. If you are putting a what's that called? I can't remember what it's called. Well, if you're expanding the top, let's say half of the hole, but leaving the bottom half empty, that'll be two different operations. So we're going to, so in that case, you would have more than just the bore, but in 90% of situations, you will have the bore by itself. So we're going to call this whatever bore. So I'm just going to call it bore. Make sure you have it in the right drive. Make sure it says tab, CNC, and post. Now, once again, if we click here, hold Control, and then click here. Oh, nope, sorry. I guess it's Shift. There we go. So hold Shift, click there. NC program. This we'll likely call rest because it's the rest of the stuff. So you can see same drive, tab, CNC, post. And that's all there is to it. It's not super complicated, but I mean, it's definitely helpful to know.